As we continue, our girl is abruptly woken up by an urgent call from outside her carriage. However, despite the suddenness of the call, Feni remained unfazed and has an expression on her eyes that she had already anticipated this. You see, in this world, there are two forces, the forces of the day and the forces of the night. They are two opposing factions that have clashed for a long time, and now those forces have come together with the marriage of Duke Ernest and Princess Feni. There's no way there won't be any riots that opposes such marriage. Our girl reveals that she has been waiting for this. With a carefree expression on her face, she asks the person who called her what's happening. A man introduces himself as Jahan, the person in charge of food transportation. He states his doubts against the northern forces, thinking that they will come after them and demand that they immediately divide their food supplies in. He asks our girl if she believes that they will depart from the port first and load it onto the ship. After all, the forces of day consider the Northern Navy to be ignorant and stupid. Our girl, who was previously the Duchess of the Forces of the Night, was enraged after hearing this idiot berate the Northern Navy, but she holds herself back from saying anything because she is Princess Feni right now. Instead, she just smiles at him and asks if Jahan can't just hand over the supplies to her. However, the man insists that the princess listens to him carefully. He is sure that the Duke is ignoring her. He states that his mission is to keep the Emperor's supplies safe, a job that is not to be taken lightly. Jahan expresses his anger, feeling that the princess is ignoring him. Little did he know, our girl has already expected that he will behave this way. Based on Feni's assessment, this man wanted the northern soldiers to beg for food like beggars. If they give them half of the food first, they won't do that. This Jahan is pathetic that the third prince doesn't even deal with him. Feni grins, thinking that this is a good opportunity for her to step in and allow the growth for the Emperor's men. Jahan is getting impatient. He demands that Feni stops looking at him from the window and come out to give him the order. In response, our girl does just that. She goes out of her carriage and acts dumb, saying that it seems Jahan have had to do a difficult job. Seeing her aloof expression, Jahan thinks to himself that this princess is really dumb and reliable. But he can't just blurt that out. However, he feels that the Emperor has entrusted him with this important task. It is his chance to do well and consolidate his position. As it turns out, this man is the nephew of the first Emperor. Getting extremely impatient, the soldier walks in front of our girl, not giving a single damn about personal space, and disrespectfully says that he thinks the princess doesn't know anything yet because she's still young. He was about to continue insulting our girl when Feni interrupts him. She asks who does Jahan thinks he is to just go and insult her husband's army. Furthermore, this soldier should not dare talk about the dignity of the Emperor. Plus, he's acting as if he is the Emperor himself, having that arrogant air with him. Our cunning heroine continues her charade, saying that this is the first time she has seen a person as reckless as Jahan. She adds that just looking at his face makes her stomach twitch. Feni orders him to leave and return to the imperial palace immediately. Hearing this, Jahan has completely forgot the hierarchy and raised his voice against Feni, asking who the hell does she think she is for her to tell him such order. In response, our strong-willed girl questions if he's judging her. With all of the nonsense that the man is spouting, she feels like she's going to faint. She no longer wants to see Jahan's face, even those who works under him. Thus, she commands for all of them to return to the imperial palace. All of Jahan's subordinates, along with the man himself, were shocked upon hearing such absurd statement. They cannot say anything from being so surprised, and their jaws almost hit the floor. While our girl is making all these scenes, Christian is watching over her on the sidelines with great interest, despite it not showing on his face. Feni brushes past by him and whispers that she hopes they can talk properly next time, and also remarks that Christian shouldn't be so sensitive just because he met someone he doesn't like. Needless to say, the blue-haired hunk was taken aback by our girl's comment. He didn't expect that his cold demeanor would be taken as being sensitive. Our girl then appoints a new soldier to be in charge of the transportation of food. The man was a bit surprised by the sudden promotion, but he's more than willing to do so. With the background changing into gold, showcasing his happiness, he states that he'll definitely do a better job compared to the idiot Jahan. He quickly issues his first command to his now subordinates, stating that no one should dare touch him. He is now His Majesty's new representative. Of course, Jahan didn't take this lightly and confronted the man, but the new representative has a very strong sense of duty and fought back, resulting to the two of them squaring up. Our girl is delighted. Everything is going as she has expected. She has been handing out honey tea for a few days, and she has observed several people and their relationships. In a short amount of time, she's been scouting who will be her rivals, threats, who hates who and what other people likes. Needless to say, the result is quite satisfactory for her. Sebastian then creeps behind her, whispering that something good might be happening to Feni for her to smile brightly like that. Our girl was a bit taken aback by her abrupt appearance, but the man just gave him a wonderful smile and greets her a good morning. He introduces himself to the princess, saying that he's Sebastian de Sen, an officer in the Northern Navy. He asks our girl if he can take the liberty of fixing the mess for her. Feni is delighted upon seeing him, stating that he can do whatever he wants. Although she's glad that she's starting to make a connection with her former friend, she wonders for how long was the man has been observing her. With that being said, the four-eyed cutie took our girl's words for it and immediately sprung to action, reprimanding the rowdy forces of day soldiers while Feni just clapped for him as a support. Suddenly, a commanding voice is heard, saying that this kind of scene is not something that the princess should witness. The origin of that stern and stoic voice is none other than our boy, the cold Duke, Ernest. Upon his arrival, the soldiers quickly behaved themselves and offered salutations to him. Feni remarks that she's fine despite the rowdiness, saying that the soldiers are protecting her pretty well. Ernest just stared at her with dead eyes, acknowledging her statement. Our girl notices that her husband seems to be aware of everything. As soon as the conflict with Jehan began, Ernest's soldiers immediately came to the rescue. Ernest states that it is not desirable for the princess to witness such commotion, so he prompts her to come with him. Feni grabs his clothes, saying that she won't move a single inch away from where they are unless Jehan is dismissed. Damn, our girl really loathes that man. In our girl's thoughts, to improve her relationship with Ernest, who doesn't even pronounce her name, she must make it clear to him that he's on their side. For that, she has to make sure to suppress the day's forces people without remorse. Jehan prostrates himself to our girl, saying that it is all a misunderstanding. It's just that he doesn't want to give his position to his cousin. After hearing our girl, Ernest walks towards the man and stabs his arm. With a commanding tone of voice and a cold gaze, he states that everyone shall follow his command. Jehan is no longer the supply director, and all current workers will be replaced. All the soldiers in the area gave salutations to the Duke and acknowledged his words in unison. Then, the terrifying Duke turns towards our girl, commenting that it was a good tactic to keep the opponent in the same position. However, he clarifies that Feni doesn't have to do anything. She doesn't have to take action. Our girl feels saddened with her husband's words. She just wants to prove her loyalty to him and is trying her best to gain his trust. Ernest then drops his sword and leans closer towards our girl. With his cold gaze remaining intact, he asks Feni if she understands what he's trying to say. Our girl is left speechless. She thinks that the Duke's statement is perfect. She doesn't have to do anything. It clear as day, Ernest doesn't want her to take action. It's not a difficult command to understand, but our girl can't bring herself to stay put. Suddenly, Siona springs to action, extending her arms towards something while screaming no. She then lunges to Jehan, who is currently on the ground, demanding that the man give the princess hairpin back. She reveals that Jehan refused to give Feni some honey to hand out to the knight's soldiers, so the princess exchanged her precious hairpin for the honey. That hairpin is not an ordinary one. It is decorated with precious emerald, making it really expensive. The soldiers who heard this were astonished. They cannot believe Feni had to exchange something so valuable just to prepare tea for them. They began to realize how thoughtful Feni really is, and are now mad at Jehan for deceiving such pure-hearted girl. Of course, Ernest will not let this go unpunished. His cold gaze turned into absolute zero as he stares at Jehan with disgust and anger. Later on, he tells our girl that the man named Jehan who has disrespected and deceived Feni was sentenced to death for his actions. He thanks his wife for being so thoughtful towards his men, saying that it was because of her that their cold got better. However, he insists that Feni consults him first before she takes any action. Our girl bashfully states that she didn't want to bother Ernest, who is busy all the time for such trivial matters. Touched by her gesture, the cold Duke eases up a bit and tells Feni that he doesn't consider her to be a bother or anything like that. Feni acknowledges this and walks away shyly. She can no longer hold back her emotions, so she chose to hide. In her heart, she wants Ernest to realize that she's really Gabriella, praying that one day the Duke will recognize it. The scene then shifts to a dock with a massive ship. Sebastian reports to Ernest that he has just dismissed half of the day forces just this day. Those are the ones that the Emperor himself has sent, so Sebastian states that the Duke's decision is clearly beneficial to them. Also, he comments that their soldiers seem to have a favorable attitude towards the princess, unlike their initial expectations. He jokingly states that superiors often take advantage of their position to manage their subordinates. Sebastian happily comments that it is kind of refreshing to drink some honey tea. Ernest then comments that even Sebastian himself seems to have changed his view to the princess. It seems that he's favoring Feni quite a bit as well. Sebastian felt a little shy about the Duke's remarks and tries his best to deny it, but it's not looking very convincing. Then, a commotion is heard coming from the princess carriage with Siona shouting that the princess is tired and not to be bothered. As it turns out, the soldiers are flocking to Feni's carriage in order to check if she's alright. They are worried about her because she hasn't left her carriage for the whole day. Sebastian states that unlike the third prince, Princess Feni interacted with them very kindly and treated them well despite them being common soldiers and not high-ranking officers. Sebastian asks Ernest if Feni's personality bothers him, to which the Duke says that it doesn't really matter. Nonetheless, they are about to meet the investigation team sent by the royal family, so it is important that the princess joins them. Historically, the royal family and the household of the Duke of X have maintained an uneasy coexistence. Regardless of their feelings, each party got what the other lacks. That Dayland is full of products that grow under the sun such as fruits and grains. On the other hand, the Nightland lacks basic foods, but it is full of magic oil. The magic oil is the basis for the research of magicians, and it is found in large quantities on the X seabed. If only an exchange of those two things had been necessary, the situation would not have been so complicated. Unfortunately, X didn't just lack food. There is a thing called extreme night sickness, a terrifying disease that causes the eyeballs to tremble and the pupils to shrink, until one day, they disappear completely, leaving only the white of the eyes. This sickness, which is only found in the Northern Sea, is incurable once it manifests itself, affecting people of all ages and genders. The only thing that can be done is to use gunpowder to slow down the progress of the disease. The essential ingredient is the bright grass, which only grows in the Temple of Valefrith in the south. Until now, the two forces had signed an unequal contract that benefited the royal family the most. But the situation changed due to the nuptial union. Furthermore, the disease research team added a bold clause that will support researchers. However, under the condition that the Princess Feni lead them personally. The situation changed radically thanks to the unique presence of the princess. Food supplies, shining grass, experts, and support from the research team are all incredible for Sebastian. This contract will surely benefit the North. However, the condition on the Article 4 and 5 demands that the princess must conceive the child of the Duke. In return, 500 tons of shining grass will be given to them as congratulatory gift. The contract is basically pushing Ernest to fall in love with Feni, but the Duke states that it will not happen. He has no intention of accepting any other woman except for his late wife, his one and only, Gabriella. Our girl is steadily making progress at making the forces of the night like her, but it seems that she still has long ways to go for Ernest to acknowledge her. What will happen next? How will the relationship between the cold-hearted Duke and the outcast princess turn out? Stay tuned in the next episode, and as always, it is our destiny to discover new manhwas.